Hello everyone, hope everybody is doing fine. Today I want to go over the game between Grandmaster in Nepomniachtchi and with the white pieces and GM Li Chao with the black pieces. And this is from the tournament that is going on right now as of February 24th, 2017, the FIDE Grand Prix. Now there was a rest day Wednesday, so Thursday we're back at it. This game started off as a Petroff. Li Chao had played a few rounds earlier, and Petroff, as I've said, is a tough nut to crack. But give grandmasters time to study and prepare, and plus with the powerful engines, uh, you can cook something up. And it looks like Li Chao just ran into some hot prep out of the oven, or he wasn't prepared. But a good game. All right, let's check it out. So knight takes e5. This is all normal stuff. d6, knight f3, knight takes e4, d4, d5, and I analyzed another one of Li Chao's Petrov games earlier in the tournament, and I had just made the remark that this mainline Petrov, I think, is regained the top spot once again in popularity. For a while, for a few years, it seemed like after knight takes e4, we saw many grandmasters playing this line, knight takes c3. Very aggressive line. And then we saw a lot of games involving these opposite wing situations. A lot of tactics and things like that. But then it seems like black has started castling on the queen side and kind of deadened the excitement, with the symmetrical nature of the position. And it seems like now this old school Petrov is coming back again, just simply playing d4 as opposed to knight c3 and pressuring the center. So d5, bishop d3. And now Li Chao seems to prefer this move, bishop d6. Here, there's pretty much three main moves here that can be played. One is bishop d6, as was played. The other is bishop e7, and the other move is knight c6. And they all lead to different, basically different outcomes. I'll just look at them real quick. I don't want to bore you with a lot of theory, but it's good just to lay a little bit of foundation. So, for instance, after bishop e7, play would typically go castles, knight c6, c4. Sometimes rook e1 is played. Then you get this, and you might be familiar with this old line. Knight b4, attacking the bishop. The bishop drops back. Now bishop e6. There's a threat to this pawn. Knight c3. That circumvents the threat to the c pawn because now the knight on e4 would be captured. So he kind of deals with the threat by developing. Castle. Bishop e3 supporting the center. And then you get this bishop f5 sometimes, which is one of the main lines. And then real old school is f5. And there's nothing wrong with this move. It's just an old, used to be played back in the days. And then after a3, knight takes c3. That's what you have with bishop e7. So the dark square bishop is more defensively placed, preventing moves like knight to g5, bishop g5, etc. Bishop d6 is more aggressively placed, but it blocks black's defense of the d5 pawn, and it's easier for white to build up an attack against the black center. The other move, knight c6, also very popular. And if you look in the database, the majority of moves you're going to see in this position, knight c6 and bishop e7, by far, and bishop d6 is like third place. And here, after knight c6, you often see the move h3, preventing bishop g4, or you just see the natural move castle. So, for instance, castle, bishop g4, and we already see the purpose of the knight being here, putting this pawn under scrutiny. c4, and you see this theme a lot in the Petroff, the undermining of the d pawn, undermining of the knight by attacking the d pawn. So after castles, bishop g4, c4, knight often goes back. C takes. Bishop takes f3. Queen takes f3. Queen takes d5. And of course, with the isolated pawn, white really doesn't want to trade queens here and then improve the knight and everything. So one move that's often played is queen e2, just check. Bishop e7. You still have this pawn under scrutiny, so this bishop has to go to b5. And then, of course, white will love queen takes d4, so he can rapidly develop and work up an attack against the queen and on the d file and the bishop on the e file. So normally this bishop will just drop back peacefully to d6, respecting the attacking possibilities that white has. Okay, so that's like the basic idea with this knight c6 followed by bishop g4 is to ramp up the attack on this d pawn, and white often accepts an isolated pawn in that position and retains some good attacking chances. Bishop e7, a little more defensive in nature, and by keeping the bishop here, again, it guards this diagonal really good. And then knight c6 comes out. And then you see a slightly different game where black more or less tries to strong point his control over e4 and d5. You see he tries to maintain the pawn there. And last but not least is our game continuation of bishop d6, which is a more aggressive line. Bishop coming out to d6 with attacking ideas on the king side. But note already that this pawn is not protected right now. So naturally, white goes after that weakness. So castles, and we're back to the game. Nepomniachtchi castled, Li Chao castled, c4, c6. So notice the knight doesn't come out to c6 to try to attack this d pawn. So basically, black leaves white alone. It leaves white center alone as far as that's concerned, and basically tries to strong point e4 and build up attacking chances on the king side. Knight c3, knight takes c3, b takes c3, d takes c4, and this is all like old theory. Matter of fact, in the old chess books, they would give d takes c4 exclamation mark because, in theory, black is giving up his center, but he gets an exclamation mark here in the old lines, and you'll see hundreds of games like this, grandmaster games even today. There's bishop g4, and then queen d3, and then knight d7, and there's tons of games with this following continuation. Knight G5, and this is to give you an example of White's ideas in this position. So just follow this sequence real quick. So after Knight G5, Knight F6, of course, real primitive attack here, and mate is threatened. So Knight F6, H3, Bishop H5, driving the bishop back, of course. F4, and this is an old line, and you'll see many games in this line. This game is from Tilburg, 1988, between Nigel Short and Robert Hubner. H6, G4, H takes G5, F takes G5, and then Knight takes G4, H takes G4, and Queen D7. Of course, not Bishop to G6, because this bishop on C4 is pinning this pawn, so this would win for White immediately. So Queen D7, and the idea is to give up the piece. King takes G5, and now Queen G4. And in this game, King F2, Rook A E8 was played, and White's king is in a drafty position, and Black, being down a piece, needs to either have some type of perpetual or compensation for an attack. Rook G1 from Nigel, and now Queen H4, King G2, and then Hubner played B5, attacking the bishop. Nigel dropped back, Bishop B3, C5, and then Rook H1, and Hubner resigned. Okay, even though he could have played Queen G4 here, but even stronger than Rook H1 is just simply Queen F3 for White. Now, I don't want to get into detailed analysis of that game, but what I want to tell you is that there are dozens and dozens of games in the same exact line, because Grandmasters, of course, the line gets hot, so to speak, and Grandmasters start repeating variations. And what was found was, instead of playing this move B5, that Black has this move Queen H2, and this basically kind of killed the variation for White. And then there's dozens of games that end in draws. Again, I'm not gonna go into it. You can look this position up in in a database, but there are dozens of games that ended in draws. Actually, you know what? You come to this channel, support this channel. I'll show you one real quick. That way you don't have to be like look it up and all of that stuff. So I'll show you a game. What I'm talking about. So this game was like a little miniature. Short got the victory, but then later it was discovered that this line is really nothing for Black to worry about. So we find ourselves in the same position, but now we are in the former Soviet Union, Odessa, 1989, and the white player is Andrei Sokolov, and the black player is the late Grandmaster Lembit Ol. And after Queen H4 check, King G2, again same line, and instead of this move C5 that was played in the Nigel Short Hubner game, when Queen F3 wins immediately, and this move is much better, and White has nothing to worry about at this point. Excuse me, Black has nothing to worry about at this point. All of White's pieces on the queen side are just, they're out of it and can't really do anything to help White in combination with the exposed king. So after king f1, great move. Sokolov is very strong grandmaster. And black was actually up in exchange. And again, that exposed king is just too much for white to be able to legitimately have chances here. He could have tried to play bishop c2, but probably would lose after queen takes a2. Okay, so again, there's many games after bishop g4. That's the main, the main squeeze, so to speak, in this line with bishop d6, and you know, many, many games have been played there. Okay, now we've returned to Nepomniachtchi and Li Chao. We've stepped out of the time machine, and now it's 2017 once again. And instead of playing the move bishop g4, what did Nepomniachtchi play? Well, he played the engine's favorite move, and that is bishop f5, which doesn't seem too impactful, actually. But I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Nepomniachtchi did not play. I'm sorry, I got it mixed up. Nepomniachtchi has the white pieces. Li Chao did not play the main, the main line. This bishop g4 idea. Instead, he played bishop f5, which may be a product of some home cooking or something. And it seems, it seems like a natural move. We bring the bishop to the center. This diagonal is not occupied, so why not do it? Okay, so immediately, the Nepomniachtchi just attacks the queen, as f6 can't really be played. Queen c7. So far, so good. Only thing is there's no pressure on this knight, so this pawn is not really threatened here. Rook e1 by Nepomniachtchi, or natural moves. h6, knight h4. So he takes the time to attack this bishop, but the bishop goes back, and this looks all prepared already by Li Chao. Right? He's a Petroff expert, and he seems ready. But here, Nepomniachtchi plays a very bold move, if I might say. Bishop takes h6. And Li Chao responded with a natural-looking move. Bishop takes h2 check, just grabbing the pawn. And this is interesting because it seems that white can still get an advantage even if black takes the piece, due to the open nature of the position and the lack of development on the queen side. So g takes h6, queen g4 check. This is a sample line. King h8, knight f5, bishop takes f5, queen takes f5, and I say f6, with the idea of the queen being able to swing over in defense. Rook e6, c5, rook takes f6, now queen g7, rook takes, queen takes, bishop f7, knight c6, and I love bishop f7 because it blocks the queen's defense of f6. Knight c6, and then queen f6, and king h7. And that's a very interesting position to me. So he's presented Li Chao with some tough problems over the board. So Li Chao decided just to play bishop takes h2, king h1, and then bishop f4. So basically he's trading the h pawns. He doesn't want to get too the position to get too messy, and he says, all right, you got me. You play bishop takes h6. You know what? I'm going to take your h pawn on h2, and we'll call it even. So Nepomniachtchi takes another pawn. Instead of just playing bishop takes f4, he says, you know what? I'm going to take another pawn and then see what you're going to do. So bishop takes g7. And now Li Chao has to take. King takes g7. And now queen g4. And this looks scary because the king is exposed, right? And black's queenside pieces are still in hibernation. That rook and that knight need to be a part of this game because all of white's pieces, save the rook on a1, are poised for attack. That knight on h4 is ready to join in soon as it's given the opportunity, and the bishop on c4 is well placed, and the rook on e1 is just a piece of dynamite ready to explode. So king h8, knight f4. And this looks like it's the games that I just showed you, but with the bishop on g4. Okay, it's like the same. It's almost like the same type of attack that white is orchestrating. Bishop takes f5. Queen takes f5. Queen d6. Now again, with the same idea is f6 in the line I showed you, and that's to be able to swing the queen over for defense, but at the same time keep an eye on this bishop here. G3, attacking the bishop, and this move is multi-purpose. The first point is, of course, just attacking the bishop, but the second point is to move the king to G2, clearing the H file. Bishop H6, so protecting the bishop and trying to use the bishop as a pawn, basically as a guardian for the king on the H file. King G2. Hey, there's that move. B5 again. Now here, Nepomniachtchi played bishop B3, which is a good move. He has a clear advantage, but bishop takes F7, very strong also. And play could go knight D7, rook E6, and see that's what makes it very tough. That lack of development black is suffering from is fatal here. And he just has no choice but to go down in flames here. He just cannot deal with the superior development of the white pieces. But he plays B3, bishop B3, which is good enough. Queen G6, offering the trade of queens, which white is glad to take because now he can enter into a superior ending, which he does. And notice the piece is still on the back rank. The rook on A8 and the knight on B8. Bishop is attacked, so king G7. Now rook H1. Rook H8, forcing the rook into a passive place. Rook E7 now. King G6. And real simple, bishop C2. And this actually leads to mate after king F6. So I think it's mate in 5. Yeah, king F6, rook H. Yeah, king F6. Then the rook comes back to E1. Yep. And Li Chao was forced to resign. So that was an interesting game. 29 moves. So something must have went wrong in Li Chao. Well, obviously something went wrong in Li Chao's preparation here. Seemed like he underestimated these moves. Bishop takes H6, and then this move, bishop takes G7. Because the game looked real simple, and then all of a sudden it just exploded, and then Li Chao never got his queenside pieces developed in the game. It's just like he just got hit by a hurricane or something, and um, next thing you know, he was like in deep trouble, and the game was over. So spectacular tactical win by Nepomniachtchi, and so Li back to the drawing board and maybe go back to Bishop G4, which which is oldie but goodie. It's tried and tested, and it stood the test of time. So you have to work on this Bishop 5 line, but we know Bishop G4 is is pretty good also. But anyway, that was just a quick rundown. I hope you enjoyed the analysis, the presentation, and please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video.